The dust finally settled on the third day. Han Sol pushed against the collapsed beam that had trapped her in the mining shaft. Her shoulders burned with effort, but the metal groaned and shifted. She squeezed through the gap and climbed toward the surface, her hands bloody and raw. When she reached the top, she stopped breathing. The colony was gone. Every building she had called home for 2 years lay in ruins. Smoke rose from the command center. The residential pods were crushed flat. Bodies lay scattered across the red dirt, human and alien both. Han Sol dropped to her knees and vomited. She stayed there for a long time, staring at nothing. The silence pressed against her ears. No voices, no machines, no life. Just wind moving through broken metal and ash. Eventually, she stood. Her legs shook, but she forced them steady. She had survived. That meant she needed water, food, shelter. The thinking helped. It gave her something to do besides scream. She picked through the wreckage carefully. The Vraxil had come 3 days ago, their ships blocking out the sun. They demanded surrender. The colony administrator tried to negotiate. The Vraxil answered with plasma fire. Han Sol had been deep in the mine when it started. The explosions sealed her inside. She spent 3 days digging out with nothing but a broken drill and determination. Now she wished she had stayed buried. The supply depot was destroyed. But she found a few ration packs in the rubble. A water recycler still functioned. Miracle of miracles. She stuffed everything into a torn backpack and kept moving. That was when she heard it. A sound, soft and broken, like crying. Han Sol froze. Her heart hammered. She turned slowly, scanning the ruins. There, behind a collapsed transport vehicle, movement. She approached carefully. Her hand found a piece of rebar, gripping it tight. The crying grew louder. Not human. The pitch was wrong. Too high. She rounded the transport and stopped. 3 small figures huddled together in the shadow of the wreck. They were Vraxil, but young. So young. Their scales were still soft and pale, not the dark armor of adults. The largest might have been as tall as her waist. The smallest barely reached her knee. They stared at her with huge eyes. 6 eyes total. 3 each. Golden and wide with terror. Han Sol stared back. These were the enemy. The species that killed everyone she knew. That destroyed her home. That left her alone on this dead rock. The smallest one whimpered. Han Sol's grip on the rebar loosened. Her hand dropped to her side. The metal clanged against stone. They were children. She took a step forward. All 3 flinched backward, pressing against the transport. The largest moved in front of the others, spreading small arms wide, trying to protect them. Scales rattled with fear. "It's okay," Han Sol said quietly. The words felt stupid. They probably didn't understand Korean, but her tone seemed to help. The rattling slowed. She crouched down, making herself smaller, less threatening. "Are you hurt?" the largest one hissed. A warning, but weak. So weak. Han Sol looked them over. They were thin, too thin. Ribs showed under scales. Their movements were slow. When did they last eat? She reached slowly into her backpack. 3 sets of eyes tracked her hand. She pulled out a ration pack and tore it open. The smell made her own stomach clench with hunger. But she extended it toward them. "Here, food." None of them moved. The largest kept hissing, but quieter now. Uncertain, Han Sol set the ration pack on the ground between them. She backed away several steps and sat down, waiting. Long minutes passed. Finally, the smallest one crept forward. Quick little movements. It snatched the pack and scrambled back. The 3 of them tore into it desperately. Han Sol watched them eat her food and tried to understand what she was doing. A Vraxil patrol passed overhead an hour later. The sound of engines sent the cubs scrambling deeper into the wreckage. They huddled together in a small space between two collapsed walls. The ships didn't land. They continued their sweep and disappeared over the horizon. When silence returned, Han Solo looked at the three small faces watching her. They didn't come for you, did they? The largest one's scales rippled. Some kind of expression she couldn't read. She thought about the adult Vraxel bodies she had seen. Officers. Soldiers. But no civilians. No families. This had been a military operation. Fast and brutal. These cubs must have been on one of the transports. Maybe their caretakers were soldiers who died in the fighting. Maybe they got separated in the chaos. It didn't matter. The Vraxil had moved on and left them behind. Left them to die. Han Solo rubbed her face. Her hands came away dirty and bloody. This is insane. You're the enemy. I should leave you here. The smallest one made a soft sound. Not quite crying. Something sadder. Damn it. She stood up and looked around the ruins. They couldn't stay here. The area was too exposed. Patrols would return. And night was coming. The temperature would drop below freezing. Okay. I'm probably going to die doing this. But, she looked at the cubs. Come on. I know a place. She started walking. After a moment, she heard small footsteps following. The old storage facility at the colony's edge had survived mostly intact. The walls were reinforced. The roof was solid. It would do. Han Solo led the cubs inside and sealed the door. She activated a small emergency light. Pale glow filled the space. The cubs clustered together in a corner, watching her. Still scared. Still ready to run. Right. First things first. Han Solo dropped her backpack and started sorting through the facility. Old equipment. Spare parts. Nothing immediately useful for feeding alien children. She found some thermal blankets in a locker. She approached the cubs slowly and offered them. The largest one snatched them away and wrapped the smaller two, protecting them again. Han Solo sat down against the opposite wall. Her body ached. Her mind spun with exhaustion. She should sleep. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw the bodies. I don't know what I'm doing, she said to the darkness. I don't know how to take care of you. I don't even know what you eat. The largest cub's eyes gleamed in the low light. Still watching. Still waiting for betrayal. Han Solo pulled out another ration pack. She ate half and saved the rest. Tomorrow, she would need to find more food. Figure out what Vraxil cubs could digest. Find better shelter. Make a plan. Tomorrow felt impossible, but she was still alive. And so were they. That would have to be enough. 5 days changed everything. Han Solo woke on that first morning to find all three cubs staring at her. They hadn't slept. Just watched her through the night, waiting to see if she would kill them. The thought made her sick. She sat up slowly and checked her supplies. 2 ration packs left. The water recycler was running at minimum power. The facility's backup generator had maybe 3 days of fuel. Not enough. Not nearly enough. The largest cub made a clicking sound. Han Solo looked over. It was pointing at the smallest one. The little cub was shaking, curled into a tight ball. Sick? Han Solo crawled closer. The small one's scales looked wrong. Dull. Flaking. She reached out carefully. The cub flinched but didn't pull away. Its skin was hot. Fever. Okay. Medical supplies. I need medical supplies. She stood and grabbed her backpack. Stay here. I'll be back. I promise. The largest cub's expression clearly said it didn't believe her. Han Solo ventured back into the ruins. The colony had a medical center once. If she could find it, if anything survived, she picked through debris for 2 hours. Every sound made her freeze. Every shadow could be a patrol. But she found it. The medical center was half collapsed, but the storage room was intact. She loaded her pack with everything she could carry: bandages, medicine, diagnostic tools. She didn't know what worked on Vraxel, but she had to try. When she returned to the facility, she found the largest cub had moved the smallest one closer to the thermal blankets. The middle cub sat beside them, making soft, cooing sounds. Han Sol knelt down and opened the medical kit. She powered up a diagnostic scanner and ran it over the small cub. The readings made no sense. Vraxel biology was completely different from human. "I don't know what I'm looking at," she muttered. "But infection is infection. Fever is fever." She found broad-spectrum antibiotics and calculated a dose based on the cub's size. It was a guess. A dangerous guess. But doing nothing was more dangerous. The small cub didn't fight when she administered the injection. Too weak. That scared her more than anything. "You're going to be okay," Han Sol said softly. "I've got you." The largest cub watched every movement. After Han Sol finished, it made a low rumbling sound. Not aggressive. Something else. "You're welcome, I think." The food problem got worse. Han Sol tried giving them human rations. The cubs sniffed the food and turned away. She tried mixing it with water. They wouldn't touch it. On day 3, the middle cub started weakening too. Panic clawed at Han Sol's chest. She was watching them starve and couldn't do anything. She went back to the wreckage. This time, she searched the destroyed Vraxel transport. It was risky. Exposed. But she had no choice. Inside the transport, she found containers marked with Vraxel symbols. She opened one. Dark paste. Strange smell. She took samples of everything. Back at the facility, she offered the paste to the cubs. All 3 approached slowly. Sniffed. The largest one tasted it first, then chittered excitedly. All 3 began eating. Han Sol nearly cried with relief. But the supplies she found wouldn't last long. Maybe 4 days. She needed another solution. She spent day 4 studying the paste's composition with the diagnostic scanner. Complex proteins. Specific minerals. Nothing she could easily replicate. Then she remembered the mining facility. They processed raw minerals. Broke down complex compounds. If she could access the lab equipment, it took her all of day 5 to reach the facility and get the equipment working. She analyzed the paste, broke down its components, and searched for substitutes in the colony's chemical storage. It was like solving a puzzle. Each piece had to fit perfectly, or the cubs would die. She worked through the night. Mixed compounds. Tested samples. Failed. Tried again. By dawn, she had something that approximately matched the paste's composition. Approximately. She brought it back to the facility. The cubs were weak, listless. The small one's fever had broken. But now, it wouldn't eat. "Please work," Han Sol whispered. She offered the mixture. The largest cub sniffed it. Looked at Han Sol with those golden eyes. Tasted it, and ate. The others followed. Within hours, their energy returned. Their scales brightened. The small one lifted its head and made a chirping sound. Han Sol sat against the wall and finally let herself cry. The nights were the hardest. Temperature dropped to -20. The thermal blankets helped, but the cubs still shivered. Han Sol couldn't let them freeze. She went back into the ruins and started collecting scrap metal, sheet metal from destroyed buildings, support beams, anything she could carry. She worked like someone possessed. Hauling metal, sorting pieces, planning. The largest cub watched her suspiciously at first. But on day 7, it followed her outside. Watched her work. Then it started bringing small pieces of metal back to the facility. The middle cub joined the next day. Even the small one, still weak, tried to help. They worked together in silence. Human and Vraxel. Building something from ruins. Han Sol used her engineering training to design a shelter within the shelter. A cradle, almost. She bent metal sheets into walls, sealed gaps with salvaged sealant, created a small space that would hold heat. The cubs crawled inside when she finished. curled together, warm. Han Sol reinforced the roof with support beams, added another layer of insulation, made it stronger. That night, she heard something outside. Footsteps. Heavy. Adult. A patrol. Han Sol killed the light and pulled the cubs deeper into their metal cradle. She covered the entrance with debris, made it look like nothing important. They huddled together in darkness. The cubs' scales rattled. Han Sol put her arms around them and held them close. Quiet, she breathed. Don't move. Footsteps circled the facility. A voice spoke in the Vroxel language. Another answered. Long minutes passed. Then the footsteps moved away. Han Sol didn't move for another hour. When she finally released the cubs, she realized they were clinging to her. Not in fear. In trust. The largest one looked up at her. Its scales had changed color slightly. Warmer tones. It pressed its head against her hand. It's okay, Han Sol whispered. I won't let them take you. She didn't know when the decision had been made. When these enemy children had become her responsibility, her family. But somewhere between the starvation and the fear and the cold nights, it happened. On day 10, Han Sol found a piece of cloth in the rubble, torn but clean. She tied it to a metal pole and planted it outside the facility. A banner, marking their territory, declaring this place a sanctuary. The largest cub stood beside her and looked up at the banner. It made a sound Han Sol was starting to recognize. Approval. Yeah, she said. We're still here, and we're not going anywhere. Inside the metal cradle, the cubs slept that night without shivering. Han Sol sat guard, listening to their soft breathing. She thought about the colony, the people she had lost, the life that was gone, but she was still alive, and she wasn't alone. 3 small lives depended on her now. 3 impossible lives she had no business protecting. She looked at the metal walls she had built from scrap and ruins. Strong enough to keep out the cold. Strong enough to keep them safe. We'll make it, she promised the sleeping cubs. I don't know how, but we'll make it. The banner outside rustled in the wind, and Han Sol believed her own words. The small cub's name was Young Cheol. Han Sol didn't know that was its name. She just started calling it that on day 12. The middle cub became Bo Mi. The largest, who still watched her with careful eyes, became Day 1. They didn't protest the names. Maybe they understood. Maybe they didn't. But when Han Sol said, Young Cheol, the small cub looked up. That was enough. Young Cheol was getting stronger. The fever hadn't returned. It followed Han Sol everywhere now. Chirping and clicking. Sometimes it grabbed her hand with small claws, holding tight. Bo Mi was quieter, thoughtful. It organized their small space, arranging supplies with careful precision. It reminded Han Sol of herself. Day 1 remained watchful, protective. It checked the doors before sleeping, tasted all food first, made sure its siblings were safe. They were becoming a unit, a strange, impossible family. On day 13, Han Sol found the communications array. It was buried under rubble near the command center. Most of it was destroyed, but the main transmitter survived. If she could repair it, if she could get enough power, they could call for help. She worked on it for 3 days. Scavenging parts, rewiring circuits. The cubs watched her work, sometimes bringing tools they thought might help. This might actually work, Han Sol said, on day 15. She connected the final power coupling. We might get out of here. Day 1 made a questioning sound. Off this planet, away from the Vroxel military, somewhere safe. The 3 cubs looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. What? Han Sol asked. Day 1 stepped forward. It touched the transmitter, then touched Han Sol, then touched itself and its siblings. Yes, all of us. Together. Day 1's scales rippled. That meant happiness, Han Sol had learned. Or Relief. Maybe both. That night changed everything. Han Sol was testing the transmitter when she heard the sounds. Snarling. Scratching. Something big moving through the ruins. She killed the transmitter and grabbed her metal bar. Get in the cradle. Now. The cubs scrambled inside. Han Sol positioned herself at the entrance. The door exploded inward. 3 creatures burst through. Native to this planet. Like wolves. But larger. 6 legs. Rows of teeth. Scales. Instead of fur. They smelled the cubs immediately. Predators. Recognizing prey. The first one lunged. Han Sol swung the metal bar with everything she had. It connected with the creature's skull. Bone crunched. The creature went down. The second one leaped over its fallen packmate. Claws raked Han Sol's arm. Pain exploded. She screamed and drove the bar into its throat. The third circled, snarling, looking for an opening. Behind Han Sol, she heard the cubs crying out, terrified. She couldn't let this thing past her, couldn't let it reach them. The creature lunged. Han Sol met it head-on. They went down together. Teeth snapped near her face. Claws tore her shoulder. She got the bar under its jaw and pushed. 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 Something snapped. The creature went limp. Han Sol shoved the body away and stumbled to her feet. Blood ran down her arm. Her shoulder screamed. She could barely hold the bar. But the creatures were dead. All 3. She turned to the cradle. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? 3 pairs of eyes stared at her. Wide. Shocked. Then Day One climbed out. It approached slowly. Looked at Han Sol's wounds. Looked at the dead creatures. Looked back. At Han Sol. It pressed its head against her chest and made a sound. Low and rumbling. Different from before. Bomi and young Cheol joined. All 3 cubs surrounded her, touching her gently. Careful of her wounds. I'm okay, Han Sol said. Her voice shook. I'm okay. You're safe. Day One looked up at her. Its eyes held something new. Understanding. Recognition. This human had fought for them. Bled for them. Almost died for them. Everything changed in that moment. Day One began helping Han Sol hunt for supplies the next day. It knew which plants were safe, which water sources were clean. It taught her Vraxel gestures, showed her how to move quietly. Bomi started making the food. It learned to mix the synthetic paste Han Sol created, added things that made it taste better. Took care of the living space. Young Cheol became the scout. It was small enough to fit through tight spaces, fast enough to run from danger. It found hidden caches Han Sol would have missed. They worked together, not human and aliens, not survivor and orphans, family. On day 18, a Vraxel patrol flew overhead, low, searching. The cubs ran to hide, but Han Sol stopped them. Wait. She walked outside, looked up at the ships, and raised her hand. Not in surrender. In defiance. She pointed at the banner flying above their facility. At the metal walls she had built. At the sanctuary she had created. This is mine, her gesture said. You left them to die. I saved them. They're mine now. The ships circled once, twice, then flew away. But Han Sol knew they had been seen. Marked. The Vraxel leadership would hear about this. We don't have much time, she told the cubs. They'll come back. She worked frantically to finish the transmitter. The cubs helped, fetching tools and parts. Young Cheol even climbed into dangerous spaces to retrieve crucial components. On day 20, the transmitter powered up. Lights flickered to life. Static filled the air. Come on, Han Sol whispered. She adjusted frequencies. Static, static, static. Then, faintly. Repeat. This is neutral station Kepler 7. Is anyone? Yes. Han Sol grabbed the microphone. This is Han Sol, human survivor on Kether 9. I need immediate assistance. I have 3 Vraxil juveniles in my custody. Requesting extraction. Long silence. Repeat your last. Did you say Vraxil juveniles? Confirmed. 3 cubs. Orphaned. Under my protection. Another pause. Han Sol waited. The cubs pressed close around her. Day One's claws gripped her hand. The response came 10 minutes later. Han Sol, this is Station Kepler 7. We're forwarding your transmission to both human and Vraxil authorities. Sit tight. Someone will come. How long? Unknown. That's contested space. It's complicated. We don't have time for complicated. Do your best. Kepler 7 out. The transmission ended. Han Sol looked down at the 3 cubs, watching her with trusting eyes. They're coming, she said. I don't know who. I don't know when. But someone's coming. Day One chittered softly. Then it did something new. It tried to speak. The sounds were broken, twisted by an alien throat. But Han Sol understood. Han Sol, her name, in a Vraxil voice. She pulled all 3 cubs into her arms and held them tight. Yeah, I'm Han Sol. And you're Day One. Bo Mi. And Young Cheol. We're family. That night, she taught them the lullaby her mother used to sing. They couldn't repeat the words, but they hummed along. The melody filled their metal cradle, turning it into something like home. Outside, the banner flew high. A declaration. A challenge. A promise. Inside, a human and 3 aliens slept together, protected by walls built from scrap and determination. And somewhere in space, ships were already moving toward them. Some coming to help. Others coming to take what they thought was theirs. Han Sol didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But she knew one thing, with absolute certainty. No one was taking these cubs from her. Not without a fight. 3 weeks after the confrontation, the first diplomat arrived. Her name was Ji-Hei, human, mid-40s, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She landed alone in a small diplomatic shuttle. Han Sol met her outside the facility. Day One stood at her side, no longer hiding. Ambassador Ji-Hei, Han Sol said. Welcome to our home. Ji-Hei stared at the metal structure. At the banner flying above. At the Vraxil cub standing protectively beside a human. Is it true? Everything they're saying? Depends what they're saying. That you adopted 3 Vraxil cubs. That the matriarch granted you custody. That you're living in a shelter built from scrap metal. Then yes, it's true. Ji-Hei laughed. It sounded like disbelief and wonder mixed together. May I see them? Han Sol led her inside. Bo Mi was organizing supplies. Young Cheol was playing with a toy Han Sol had made from spare parts. All 3 cubs looked up when they entered. Cubs, Han Sol said in Korean, then repeated in broken Vraxil. This is Ji-Hei. She's human. Young Cheol chirped and approached cautiously. It sniffed Ji-Hei's extended hand, then chittered approval. My God, Ji-Hei whispered. They really do trust you completely. We trust each other. That's how family works. All. Ji-Hei spent an hour asking questions. How did you feed them? How did you communicate? How did you survive? Han Sol answered everything patiently. Finally, Ji-Hei sat back. Do you know what you've done? Kept 3 kids alive? Changed everything. Ji-Hei gestured broadly. There are peace talks happening. Right now. Because of you. Because you proved humans and Vraxil can coexist. I didn't prove anything political. I just helped some children. That's exactly the point. You didn't see enemies. You saw children who needed help. That simple act has shaken both our governments. Scholar Hyun-woo entered. He had been living in a separate building, documenting everything. She is correct, Han Sol. Your actions have spread through both species. There are debates, arguments, discussions about what it means. DEMT. It means I'm not a monster. That's all. To you, perhaps. To us, it means our propaganda was wrong. If a human can care for Vraxil cubs, can love them as her own, then what else were we wrong about? Han Sol looked at the three cubs playing together. Ji-Hye smiled. There's a proposal. Both governments want to create a joint facility here. A place where orphans from both species can be cared for. They want you to run it. Ji-Hye smiled. They want you to run it. Me? You proved it works. You proved that species doesn't matter when it comes to compassion. They want to expand that. Make it official. Han Sol was quiet for a long time. Day One pressed against her leg, sensing her uncertainty. What if I say no? Then you say no. But Han Sol. Ji-Hye leaned forward. There are dozens of orphans right now. Human kids who lost parents in the war. Vraxil cubs declared clanless. They're suffering. I'm just one person. You built a shelter from scrap metal. You created synthetic food from chemical compounds. You fought off predators with a metal bar. You're not just one person. You're someone who makes impossible things happen. Han Sol looked at the cubs. At the metal cradle that had become their home. If I do this, I have conditions. Name them. No military involvement. No politics. This place becomes neutral ground. Anyone who needs help gets it, regardless of species or allegiance. Done. I choose my own staff. People who care about kids, not about propaganda. Agreed. And these three. Han Sol touched Day One's head gently. They stay with me. Always. They're mine. No one would dare separate you. Not after what you've built here. Han Sol closed her eyes. Thought about the colony she had lost. The people who died. The loneliness of those first days. Then she looked at young Cheol, laughing as it played. At Bomi, carefully arranging their small home. At Day One, watching her with complete trust. Okay, she said. Let's do it. The construction began 2 weeks later. Both species sent engineers, equipment, supplies. They expanded the facility carefully, preserving the original metal cradle at its center. Han Sol's first shelter became the heart of something larger. The first orphans arrived a month after that. 4 human children, 6 Vraxil cubs, all scared, all alone, all desperate for safety. Han Sol met them at the landing pad. Welcome, she said. You're safe now. You're home. Day One, Bomi, and young Cheol helped. They showed the new cubs where to sleep, how to eat. That humans weren't scary. The human children were harder. They had been taught to fear Vraxil, to hate them, but young Cheol was patient. It offered a toy, made soft sounds. Slowly, carefully, a human girl reached out, touched its scales, smiled. They're not so bad, she said. No, Han Sol agreed. They're just kids, like you. More arrived over the following months. The facility grew. Han Sol trained staff, both human and Vraxil. People who understood that children came first. Always first. Scholar Hyun Woo published his findings. The bond between species. The capacity for cross-cultural caregiving. How compassion transcended biology. His work spread through academic circles. Changed minds. Challenged assumptions. Commander Thelvok visited 6 months after the confrontation. Han Sol met him warily. I came to apologize, he said. For what? For not seeing what you saw. For calling them clanless. For almost. He looked at the cubs playing in the courtyard. For almost letting them die. You didn't know better. Now you do. It is not enough. I was wrong. My culture was wrong. Then change it. He looked at her steadily. We are trying. Because of you. Because you showed us a different way. He left something before departing. A medal. Vraxil, military honor. For civilians who save lives. Han Sol put it in a drawer. Medals didn't matter. The children did. A year after she emerged from the collapsed mine, Han Sol stood on the facility's observation deck. The sun was setting. Below, 30 children played together. Human and Vraxel, chasing each other, laughing, living. The banner still flew. Faded now. Patched, but strong. Day 1 approached. Nearly adult-sized now. Still protective. Still hers. Han Sol, it said. Its pronunciation had improved. Cubs, ready for sleep. I'll be right there. Bomi and Yongcheol had become caretakers themselves. Teaching new arrivals. Showing them how to live together. Han Sol walked to the sleeping quarters. The original metal cradle was preserved there, expanded into something larger. 30 small beds, warm blankets, soft lights. She moved through the room, checking on each child. Human. Vraxil. Some mixed groups, sharing space. All safe. She reached Day 1, Bomi, and Yongcheol's beds. They still slept near each other. Still stayed close to Han Sol's room. Ready? She asked. They nodded. Other cubs gathered. The bedtime ritual had expanded. Now she sang to all of them. She began the lullaby. Korean words her mother taught her. The cubs hummed along, their voices blending with hers. The human children joined. Different words. Same melody. The room filled with sound. With peace. With family. When she finished, Yongcheol grabbed her hand. Mother, it said clearly. Love you. I love you too, baby. All of you. She turned off the lights and stood in the doorway, watching them settle. 30 children from 2 species who should have been enemies, who should have been alone. But they weren't alone. Not anymore. Ji-hye found her later. The peace talks concluded. They're signing the treaty tomorrow. That's good. They want you there, at the ceremony. I can't leave the children. Han Sol, you started this. Your actions led directly to peace. I didn't do anything special. I just helped some kids. Ji-hye smiled. That's what makes it special. You didn't do it for glory or politics. You did it because it was right. Because they needed you. That's what humanity is. That's what they needed to see. Han Sol looked back at the sleeping children. Someone had to. But you did. When everyone else would have walked away, you stayed. You built this. Ji-hye gestured at the facility. From nothing but scrap metal, and determination, and love. Don't forget love. Never. That night, Han Sol stood beneath her banner one more time. The original piece of cloth she had raised. 23 days into hell. It flew above a sanctuary now. Above a home. Above proof that one person could change everything. She thought about the colony. The friends she lost. The life that ended. She would always carry that grief. Always remember. But she would also remember this. The moment she chose mercy over survival. The moment she saw children instead of enemies. The moment everything changed. Day 1 joined her, standing tall beside her. Thank you, it said. For saving us. For loving us. Thank you for letting me. What happens next? Han Sol looked at the stars. At the facility full of sleeping children. At the banner that declared this place a sanctuary. Next, we keep going. More children will come. More lives to save. More families to build. We are ready. Yes, we are. The banner rustled in the wind. Beneath it, 30 children slept safely. Fed. Warm. Loved. And in the center of it all, a human woman who proved that the greatest strength wasn't weapons or technology or military might. It was the simple, impossible, revolutionary act of caring, of seeing a child and saying, I will protect you, of building a cradle from scrap metal and refusing to let the cold win, of choosing love in a universe full of hate. That was humanity's gift. That was what made them extraordinary, not because they were perfect, but because they tried. 1 human, 3 cubs, a banner made from rags, and by nightfall, they all slept beneath it. Safe, together, home. The story spread across both species. Became legend. Became hope. The human who built a cradle from scrap metal. The woman who changed everything. Han Sol. Mother to all who needed her. Builder of impossible things. Proof that one person could make the universe a little less cold. And she would do it again tomorrow, and the day after, and every day after that, because children needed protecting, and Han Solo would always, always answer that call. Always.